James Monroe, the fifth President of the United States, is a prominent figure in American history, both for his leadership during a transformative period in the nation's growth and for his enduring legacy in the realms of foreign policy and national security. His presidency, which spanned from 1817 to 1825, is most often remembered for the Monroe Doctrine, a cornerstone of American foreign policy that reshaped the country's approach to international relations. But Monroe's career, both before and after his presidency, is equally important, as it reflects the evolution of the United States during the early years of its republic. This article explores the life and times of James Monroe, examining his early years, political career, presidency, and lasting impact on the nation. James Monroe was born on April 28, 1758, in Westmoreland County, Virginia, to a well-established family with deep roots in the American colonies. His father, Spence Monroe, was a successful planter, but he died when James was only 16 years old, leaving the family in financial difficulty. Despite this, Monroe was able to attend the College of William and Mary, where he studied law and became deeply involved in the political climate of the time. The college was known for nurturing students who would later play significant roles in shaping the new nation. Monroe's education coincided with the growing tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain. As a young man, he was swept up in the fervour of the Revolutionary War. In 1776, at the age of 18, he left college to join the Continental Army during the American Revolution, where he served under General George Washington. His military career was marked by courage and quick promotion. He fought in several major battles, including the Battle of Trenton and the Battle of Brandywine. Monroe's experience in the military would play a significant role in shaping his future leadership qualities. After the war, Monroe returned to Virginia and began his political career. He was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates, where he became an early advocate for strong state rights and a limited central government. These early political leanings aligned him with figures like Thomas Jefferson, who championed a vision of America that prioritized agricultural interests and states' autonomy. In 1782, Monroe was elected to the Continental Congress, where he served until 1786. During this time, he gained a reputation for his commitment to the Republican ideals that underpinned the American Revolution. He was also one of the staunch opponents of the US Constitution as it was being debated, fearing that it granted too much power to the federal government and did not sufficiently protect individual liberties. However, Monroe's views began to shift over time, and by 1790, he had become a supporter of the Constitution. His political evolution was largely influenced by the leadership of George Washington and the increasing recognition of the need for a stronger federal government. Monroe was elected to the US Senate in 1790, and in the following years, he would continue to play an important role in American politics. In the 1790s, Monroe's career took a pivotal turn when he was appointed as the US Minister to France. He arrived in Paris in 1794 during a critical period in the French Revolution. Monroe was tasked with maintaining strong diplomatic ties between the United States and France, which was then undergoing rapid and often violent changes. His tenure as Minister to France was marked by his commitment to the principles of the French Revolution, particularly the notions of liberty and equality. However, Monroe's time in France was not without its challenges. He became embroiled in a dispute with President George Washington over US foreign policy. Washington had pursued a policy of neutrality in foreign affairs, particularly in relation to European conflicts. Monroe, however, favoured stronger support for France, as he believed it was in America's best interest to ally with the French. Monroe's pro-French stance ultimately led to his recall from France in 1796, and he returned to Virginia. Despite his removal, Monroe's political influence remained strong. He was elected governor of Virginia in 1799 and served several terms in this office, focusing on issues such as internal improvements and the development of the state's infrastructure. Monroe's most significant achievements came during his presidency, which began in 1817. By this time, the United States had recovered from the ravages of the War of 1812, and the country was experiencing a period of relative peace and economic growth, which has often been referred to as the era of good feelings. Monroe, a member of the Democratic Republican Party, inherited a nation that was still grappling with internal divisions, but his presidency is often viewed as one of national unity. Monroe's first term focused on expanding and securing the United States' territorial boundaries, as well as dealing with the legacies of the War of 1812. One of the key moments of his presidency came in 1819, when Spain ceded Florida to the United States under the Adams-Onis Treaty. This was a significant territorial gain that helped strengthen the nation's position in North America. Additionally, Monroe's administration was instrumental in the Missouri Compromise of 1820, which helped ease tensions between the North and South over the expansion of slavery into new territories. The compromise allowed Missouri to join the Union as a slave state, while Maine was admitted as a free state, preserving a balance between the two regions. Perhaps the most enduring aspect of Monroe's legacy is the Monroe Doctrine, a policy introduced in his 7th annual message to Congress in 1823. The doctrine warned European powers against further colonization or intervention in the Americas, stating that any such actions would be viewed as acts of aggression against the United States. Monroe's speech, while initially focused on European interference in Latin America, also laid the foundation for America's future role as a dominant power in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was a direct response to the political situation in Europe and the Americas at the time. Many Latin American nations were gaining independence from Spain, and European powers, particularly Spain and France, were looking to reassert their influence in the region. Monroe's policy sought to protect the newly independent nations of the Americas from European imperialism, while simultaneously establishing the United States as the primary power in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine became a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy and would be invoked by later presidents as a justification for intervention in Latin America. While its immediate impact was limited, it set a precedent for the United States' involvement in the affairs of its neighbors to the south and solidified its position as a global power. Monroe left the presidency in 1825, having served 2 terms in office. After his presidency, he retired to his home in Virginia, where he lived for the remainder of his life. In his later years, Monroe faced financial difficulties, and he was forced to sell his estate in order to pay off debts. He remained active in politics, however, and continued to be a respected figure within the Democratic Republican Party. James Monroe died on July 4, 1831, at the age of 73, just a few years after his friend and fellow founding father, Thomas Jefferson, passed away on the same day. Monroe's death on the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence was a poignant reminder of his deep ties to the nation's founding principles. Today, James Monroe is remembered as one of the important founding fathers of the United States. His presidency marked the culmination of the country's transition from a fledgling republic to a more stable and secure nation, both politically and geographically. His foreign policy vision, most notably encapsulated in the Monroe Doctrine, left an indelible mark on American diplomacy, shaping U.S. relations with Latin America and Europe for generations. Monroe's leadership during a period of political consolidation, economic growth, and territorial expansion solidified his place as one of the key figures in American history. While not as famous as Washington, Jefferson, or Lincoln, his contributions were essential in shaping the trajectory of the United States. As the nation continued to grow in the 19th century, Monroe's legacy of nationalism and protectionism would influence the course of U.S. foreign and domestic policy for years to come. If you are enjoying this content, please consider liking and subscribing.